There's a specific group of people connected to Social Security who are owed real money today, and most of them have no idea because years ago an SSA representative told them flatly that applying wasn't worth their time. As of 2026, the Social Security Fairness Act has already sent retroactive payments to millions of public sector retirees after repealing two provisions that quietly reduced their benefits for over 40 years. But a smaller group, mostly spouses and surviving spouses, is still being told right now to file a brand new claim to get what's theirs. Here's what this video covers: exactly who's still affected, what the real dollar impact looks like, why so many people were turned away years before this law even existed, and the exact steps to take if this might apply to you or someone in your family. Stay to the end. The group covered last is the one most likely to have been told outright, you don't qualify, long before any of this changed. And that's exactly the group most likely to still be missing money today. One thing before we go further, this channel exists because changes like this happen quietly, buried in agency policy that almost nobody reads in full, and nobody sits down afterward to explain what it means for the specific people it affects. That's the only job this channel does. Plain English, no persona, no upsell. If that's useful, subscribe and turn on the bell so you catch the next one. It's free. Here's why this is relevant right now in 2026, and not just old news. On January 5th, 2025, the Social Security Fairness Act repealed the Windfall Elimination provision, known as WEP, and the Government Pension Offset, known as GPO. Rules from 1983 that reduced or eliminated Social Security benefits for people who also received a pension from work that didn't pay into Social Security, common among teachers, firefighters, and police officers. The repeal applies retroactively to December 2023. The SSA says it finished most of that retroactive processing by mid-2025, ahead of its own original timeline. But here's what's still unresolved in 2026. Some spouses and surviving spouses were told, long before this law passed, that the GPO would zero out their spousal or survivor benefit completely, so they never filed a claim in the first place. Now that the GPO no longer applies, that benefit may be real and payable, but because no claim was ever on file, the SSA has nothing to automatically update. They have to apply now, and current agency policy is only granting about 6 months of retroactivity back from whenever they make contact, which means every additional month of waiting is a month of back pay that likely isn't coming back. If you're thinking, this can't be me, I never worked for the government, this reaches you if your spouse or late spouse worked in state or local government, teaching, firefighting, or police work, whether or not you personally ever did. And if you're thinking, I already checked into this back in 2025 and it didn't apply, that assumption is exactly the expensive one, because the people still owed money aren't the ones who already applied and got adjusted. They're specifically the ones turned away years ago, who never tried a second time. Here's the part that should make you a little angry, in the useful sense. For more than 4 decades, people were told by the government's own agency not to bother filing for something they might have genuinely been owed because, at the time, the math came out to 0. That math changed. Nobody is obligated to track down every person who was ever turned away and tell them personally. Knowing that should be enough reason to check today, rather than assuming the SSA already found everyone affected on its own. The first group, surviving spouses of public sector employees, teachers, firefighters, police officers, other state and local government workers, who were told years ago the GPO would eliminate their survivor benefit entirely and so never applied. The real rule now, with GPO repealed, that survivor benefit can be fully payable, and depending on the deceased spouse's Social Security earnings record, the monthly amount plus the retroactive lump sum can be significant, with some processed cases running into the thousands of dollars. This affects the surviving spouse getting by on a modest pension exactly as much as one who's financially comfortable. Eligibility here runs on the rule, not on income. The catch: since there was never an original application, there's nothing for the SSA to simply update on its own. The action right now, call 1-800-721-1213 and say exactly, I'm a surviving spouse of a public sector employee, and I was previously told my benefit would be eliminated under the government pension offset. I'd like to file a new application now that GPO has been repealed. The second group, living spouses in the same position, who never applied for a spousal benefit because the GPO made it look worthless at the time. The real rule: the same repeal covers spousal benefits, not just survivor benefits. If your spouse is alive and already collecting Social Security, you may now be entitled to a spousal benefit worth up to 50% of their amount, reduced only if you claim before your own full retirement age. This affects spouses with little to no work history of their own, just as much as those who worked and paid into Social Security, but assumed GPO would still cancel out any spousal addition. The catch: the SSA's current policy is limiting retroactivity for this group to roughly 6 months from first contact, a limit senators have publicly challenged as too narrow, meaning delay has a real, ongoing cost. The action right now: go to ssa.gov/apply or call 1-800-077-21213 and say exactly, "I'd like to apply for spousal benefits. I previously believed I didn't qualify because of the government pension offset, which has now been repealed." The third group, the public sector retirees themselves, whose own benefit was reduced by WEP, who assume the SSA already fixed it automatically. For most people here, the SSA says the recalculation and retroactive lump sum were processed without any new application required. The catch: some complex cases, multiple pensions, work histories spread across several states, are still being finalized in 2026. The action right now: check your bank deposit history and your account at ssa.gov/myaccount for a benefit recalculation notice. If you see nothing after a year or more, call 1-800-777-21213 directly and ask for a case status. Before this week is over, do 3 things. 1. If you or your spouse ever worked in state or local government and were told a GPO reduction would zero out a spousal or survivor benefit, call 1-800-777-21213 and file a new application using the exact wording above. 2. Log into your ssa.gov account and check for any pending WEP or GPO recalculation notice. 3. If you already filed months ago with no update, call back and request a specific case status rather than a general answer. 3 steps, well under an hour combined, potentially thousands of dollars in benefits that were always yours once this law took effect. Here's what's worth remembering. This repeal happened because Congress passed it and it was signed into law, not because of anything you did, and not because the SSA went back and personally found everyone it had once turned away. The change took effect on its own. Making sure it actually reaches you is entirely on you. That's not an exaggeration. That's just how these changes work. If you know a retired teacher, firefighter, police officer, or their spouse who was ever told years ago that Social Security simply didn't apply to them, send them this video. You could be the reason they finally receive money they were always entitled to. That's what this channel is here to do. In the next video, I'll walk through exactly how the SSA recalculates your monthly benefit under this repeal, step by step, so you can estimate your own increase before you ever pick up the phone. I'll see you there.